Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, podcast host. Obviously, you're here listening to me, and general wearer of many hats. With me, as always, is my dear friend, co-host, and general, Gladfly, Mr. Jake Noonan. In the honor of today's guest, I'm going to introduce you as the Christina Yang to my Meredith Grey.
I'm here for it.
Right? I mean, we don't want to just use male doctors. We're going to talk about a broad spectrum of the medical profession today.
We need all of it.
Yes.
We can also go like Carla and Elliot too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but we've done the Scrubs thing. Like, I feel like, I'm going to use the Pit next time too, because I'm almost caught up with season 1.
Okay. That's fair.
By the time this episode comes out, that's going to be a wildly dated reference, but I'm here for it. Welcome to our chaos, Colleen. We're so sorry. But Colleen, if you'd be so kind, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah. So my name is Colleen Plein. My initial hat is, I guess, ear, nose, and throat physician and surgeon, but also definitely for sure a gifted adult, quote unquote, former or non-former gifted child, and also a coach. So kind of my hope is to, kind of marry all these things, but I am really, really interested in coaching for gifted individuals and physicians as well, but just gifted individuals, gifted adults in particular, just because as a physician and as a gifted person, coaching helped me so much. And I feel like it is this fun little way to really get to know yourself and how you function in the world, and is particularly suited to the gifted or neurodivergent brain.
Absolutely. And it's funny because normally I'm like, because people describe themselves as a former gifted kid, but you're like, I'm a gifted adult, and I guess former gifted child. I'm like, oh yes, because you are no longer a child. I'm like, unless this is some like Doogie Howser situation.
Exactly.
You guys can't see Colleen. She looks like she could be 15. We're not entirely sure. We didn't get that as part of the demographic information.
I definitely am not 15. I can give you that much.
Oh, man. So ear, nose, and throat.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, like, of all the medical specialties, why that one?
A couple reasons. One is I knew I wanted to do something surgical. So I really like the ability to, like, here's a problem, I'm going to fix it. But also it's one of the few specialties where you also get to see like a new patient who hasn't been diagnosed before. So you get to actually, diagnose someone, going from the ground up. And also because we get to use a lot of really fun tools and technology. It has the reputation of being sort of the geeky surgeon, the nerdy surgeon. So definitely full of a lot of neurodivergent people. I would say of the surgical specialties, it maybe aside from maybe neurosurgery, probably have a very high percentage of neurodivergent people. It kind of lends itself to this very sort of logical, brainy, like follow all the clues where they lead sort of thing.
Now, and friends, you can't see the faces that Jake and I make, but it's like tools and technology. We were both like, "Ooh!"
Exactly.
And I can ask you to explain them, but like I wouldn't even know what they are. Like, oh, a snoopity boop.
Yeah.
I wrote down like, I want to ask about your favorite tools and your favorite technology.
Oh, Jake. Ask anyway. Why not? People can Google.
Yeah, it's not anything super fancy, but we get to use, endoscopes, microscopes, We do things with big holes, we do things with little holes. You just have to have there's a lot of variety. By big hole, I mean, like, for me, that would be like a hole in the neck versus like doing something through the ear or in the nose. So there's a lot of variety. If you want, you can do a lot of broad things.
And it must be cool because I mean, like my son just had his adenoids and tonsils out. So
Hmm.
we've been talking to a lot of ENTs recently in my life.
Hmm.
And like just seeing how all these things are interconnected, right? And how impacting one system impacts the other two
Hmm.
subsystems.
Absolutely.
I mean, the quality of life we're seeing with my son already is remarkable. So I think you're probably seeing a lot of quick returns.
Yes.
Work you guys do?
Yes, for sure. Especially in kids. Yeah, and that's very satisfying.
Love that. Now, obviously, I want to talk to you about your coaching work, but
Hmm.
as a person who tried to be a medical doctor, and as I was reminded today, did not do that, take us through like high school, college, med school. Like, were you someone that was like in eighth grade, like, I will be a doctor, give me the white coat? Or what is it like you sort of stumbled into like, I'm pretty smart. Smart people end up being doctors.
I definitely did not stumble into the I am pretty smart. I can't remember a time in my life where I was conscious and have memories where that was not, I didn't hear that what felt like 24/7. No, it was funny because for a while when I was like kind of like preteens, early teens, my parents were always like, "Well, maybe you could be a doctor. Why don't you think about being a doctor?" Yeah, I was not pushed into it in any sense, but and I was always like, "Ew, no, that's gross. Like, no, I don't want to do that." And then slowly, kind of like early to mid high school, it started really appealing to me. And then I just did some shadowing and just kind of going to see what it was. And it's so funny. You talk about like Meredith Grey and Christina Yang. Like, I definitely had that thing where the first time I saw surgery, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have to do this with my life. Like in that it's like one of those things. If you're a surgeon, it just sort of like you just get that bug. So from there, it was pretty much a straight line. But the one thing that is interesting to kind of parallel you, Matt, is I always had a really big interest in psychology. And so my undergraduate degree is in psychology. I don't know, the human mind and the human brain has just always been really super interesting to me. And I didn't want to be one of those people who only did science, 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 science all the time. So I mean, I like to think that it helps me in my everyday work as a physician. But yeah, no, I kind of went straight through high school, college, med school, residency, like never really did anything besides medicine. Well, I mean, I did other things, but seriously, except that.
I mean, I know for a long time, medical health and mental health felt like they were at war.
Hmm.
And I think more modern contemporary providers are like, I can't do my job without your stuff, and you can't do your job without my stuff.
Absolutely.
Especially if I mean, if you see kids, right? I mean, I remember the anesthesiologist told my son, like, you're going to go on a rocket ship and we're going to put on a
Hmm.
special mask for you, and it's going to smell like dinosaur farts. And he went from like anxious out of his skin
Uh-huh.
to like, oh, this is fun. And I remember thinking, like, that's just good practice, right? That's just
Hmm.
you met the person where they were, and like the cliche surgeon is like, but I need to cut into you now.
Right.
Why are you flopping about? Why are the water coming out of those things in your face? I need to do the cutting now, please.
Hmm. 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 No, and I think that's true, and I think we value that more now. But there are still people who are like that. Some people, and some people, it's just like the lack of emotional intelligence. It's just like me, robot, do surgery. Like, there are plenty of people who are like that, but I think it's better to be the former.
I would agree. And is that where some of your coaching work comes in, like helping people to be more human, or are you more on the life skills side?
I think it's both. I think a lot of people are taught, and this is particularly true in surgery, but in medicine as well. I think the way we are trained teaches us that there isn't a lot of room for emotion and connection for a couple reasons. One is because and it's true in, I'm sure as a therapist, this too, but you have to keep some level of like clinical detachment, right? We can't take on all of the problems of our patients. But I think there's a vulnerability that comes with connection. Like, say, for example, as a surgery, to kind of, if you're really invested in that person and say they don't have a good outcome, then what does that mean and what are you going to feel? So it's easier to keep that at a distance. I also think the nature of our training, we're so exhausted all the time that we're literally just focused on day-to-day survival. So there isn't the emotional bandwidth to do those things. And it's a little bit generational too. I think the older generations of physicians didn't care as much about the physician-patient relationship. Everything was very paternalistic. And I feel that that has shifted, not for everybody, but I personally am very into, we call it shared decision making, right? Here is your problem, here are your options, and you get to decide what to do. But yes, I think there's a lot of people who don't want to feel their feelings in medicine for sure.
And you mentioned that emotional bandwidth, right?
Hmm.
Our jobs are just getting harder and harder and harder. And I know how much I struggle sitting in my chair.
Hmm.
What do you see physicians doing to take care of themselves? What are you suggesting that they do? Like, what's the, doctor heal thyself, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of maladaptive coping strategies. There's, I like your reaction there, Jake.
No comment.
Yeah. I mean, but it's true because if you don't know when you haven't learned, I mean, what can you do? You can go out and you can drink or you can binge eat or you can, numbing activities, spend forever on your phone. It doesn't necessarily have to be physically harmful, but I see a lot of numbing activities. And then there's people who do positive things like, exercise. I think the most important thing, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is to seek out connection. And I think it's hard because for two reasons. One, because physicians are basically taught somewhat accidentally, but also on purpose, that self-care is selfishness. And if you want to focus, you don't get to complain that you're tired. You don't get to complain that you're burnt out. You don't get to complain that you're underpaid. You're there to serve 100% of the time. And if you don't do that, then you're somehow less than. Like in training, people look at the person who's sick and takes a day off as like, oh, well, they couldn't come to work because they had a cold. Like it's frowned upon. And so I think there's a thought that it's just the self-care is just not an option. But I was going to say part of that contributes to why, we have such a suicide problem in the physician community.
I'm just going to ask on that, like, how do you end up for yourself deconstructing that whole like self-care is selfish?
It's hard and it took a lot of work and it still takes work. There's only so many hours in a day. So, like right now I'm talking to you, I literally just got home from work. I haven't even said hello to my kids yet. So it's like, which is okay. They'll be there when I get off, but it's like anything that you want to add, if you want to add exercise, if you want to add, sleep, even if you want to add connection, all those things, it's always a equation of where am I going to fit this in? And that's not just true for physicians, it's true for all people, but you feel like you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so it's hard because even prioritizing yourself, there's always something that you feel like is suffering as a result. We don't think about, well, then when I go to these other things, I can bring my whole self and I can be present and I can, function as a better human. But it's hard because there's only so many hours in the day.
I've had a lot of jobs, and I've had a lot of jobs where you could show up hungover, you could show up after a breakup, you could show up and enter numbers into a spreadsheet or take a couple of calls in the call center, wait a couple of tables, pour a couple of beers. We don't have the kind of gigs where we get to show up as less than,
Mm-hmm.
which means, like you said, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like if we can't show up at work at less than, then that energy's got to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very high bar to clear, I think. And like you say, leans at best to burnout,
Yeah,
and at worst, the very high rates of suicidality in the medical profession.
absolutely. Yeah, and even from one patient to the next, right? I mean, I'm sure you have this experience too, right? If you have someone who's, talking about a really intense traumatic thing, and then it's like, well, okay, our session's over. Now I got to be ready for the next person. Like, same thing for me. You can give someone a cancer diagnosis, and then literally 5 minutes later, someone is telling you that their runny nose is ruining their life. And you have to mentally be there for both of those people and validate both of those people. And there's such, I mean, you talked about the pit. I think the pit does a really good job of demonstrating this. It's at an extreme hyperbolic level, but I think it does a really good job at demonstrating those kind of mental gymnastics we have to do.
It's funny. One of my best friends in the entire world, and he and I went to Center for Talented Youth nerd camp together.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an emergency room physician, and he's like the pit gets a lot of things right. The thing that they miss is like how not every day is like that. How there are some days where it's just paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, nobody got into this field to paperwork, right? They got into
100%.
Save lives. He's coding. Push, push the morphine, right? It's like,
100%.
He's a AR-17 insurance form, so we can cross code this with county.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my one thought about that show is that where is all the time for them to do all the documentation for all the 80 million things that they just did? Because that's going to take days.
Someone's going to have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pit 2 paperwork.
Exactly.
Somehow does better than the original.
And I have to document all my decision making because A, I have to get paid for this, and B, if I get sued, this is all I have to defend myself is this piece of paper.
What fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Jake, did you ever want to be a medical doctor? You're such an atypical gifted kid that way.
When I grew up, I wanted to be a vet, and then I walked into the vet's office when I was like 10 and realized that I had to tell people their dogs were dying, and I was like, no thank you, I'm not doing that. That was the only time I wanted to go into the medical field.
Be thankful for that.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, that's a lie. I also wanted to do forensic pathology.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I wanted to like go in and like see all the cadavers and figure out what happened.
I wanted to do that too, but that was because I was really inspired by Dana Scully from the X-Files.
Ooh.
I was like, it's either Dana Scully or Bones from Bones.
Yeah.
So shout out to God, what the heck was his name from Scrubs? He was the worst doctor.
Oh, Doug?
Doug. I was like, it's not Todd. Todd was the surgeon. When they send him down to the morgue and he's figuring out why all the people died, he pulls the glove out from somebody, and I was like, oh God.
Oh, Doug.
Poor Doug. He found his people. He found his community, right? That's kind of what matters.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Colleen, what does coaching mean to somebody like you? I mean, do you find that the people, I mean, it's a bit of a self-selecting population, right? People don't show up to coaching if they're not at least a little bit interested.
Sure.
What do you find? Like, what do people show up to work on? How willing are they to change? Give us sort of a peek behind the scenes, as it were.
Yeah, so I think it's different depending on where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll give you the example of me. When I sought out coaching, I was burnt out. I was also having a lot of anxiety surrounding surgery and being a surgeon, and just kind of feeling like I can't continue like this. And I think what's really interesting to think about is there's a lot of thing where you can compare physicians or surgeons to high performance athletes.
For sure.
And it makes total sense to us that, a high performance athlete has a coach, right? And that might be skills of like, here's how you hit the ball, but it's also like everybody knows that in like professional sports, mental skills is part of the game, right? Every team has a sports psychologist. And so it's mental skills, and these things are skills that can be taught and developed over time. And we all have the ways that we think, but we don't ever challenge the way that we think. We're like, this is how we think, and it's by default, and it's obviously formed by your experiences in the world and those sorts of things. But I really enjoy this idea of you don't have to listen to everything your mind offers you. You don't have to have the thoughts that automatically come into your head. You can interact with those. We don't have some higher thing that just dictates however we're going to think about something or interpret the world around us. And so for me, the idea of trying to interact with those thoughts and kind of talk back and have a conversation with yourself in your head is really helpful, because you don't have to necessarily accept what's being offered. What's being offered is just the default neural pathway that you have honed and myelinated over and over and over again. And you can change that. You can make a new pathway. So my friend who's a coach says it's kind of like doing brain surgery without the surgery. That you can form new neural pathways, and you can form new thoughts, and you can myelinate those.
I was going to make a comment. I was like, you said myelinated, which is like,
yeah,
not built, not
yes.
formed, myelinated. Like to quote Lisa Simpson, you didn't dumb it down. You used more. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so foundational, right? This idea of, it's almost the survivorship bias we see in really, really gifted humans, right? Because it's like, my brain got me here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a doctor. I'm near the top of my field. I mean, Colleen, when you wake up in the morning, you're in the top 3% in the world of what you do. I mean, just waking up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a significant shift to be like, I must need to do some things differently, right? I need different kinds of support, different structures and systems, because when we get stressed, and we're all stressed, we move to that all or nothing thinking, right? It's like, I'm either successful or I'm not successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a doctor, so therefore I'm successful. So I guess I don't need to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we could always be more successful. And also we could always make it easier on ourselves, for God's sakes, right? I mean, can you even imagine?
Well, yeah. And there's also like, well, what does successful mean? So yeah, I might have a great job and I'm successful in my chosen field, but am I a successful human? And what does it mean to be a successful human? Because you can be successful in your job and completely miserable in everything else, or you can be successful in your job and miserable in your job and miserable other places. So what does success actually look like? And I think to a lot of people, when people talk about, for physicians, we have this like arrival fallacy. It's like, well, I'm going to get into medical school, and then I'm going to get into my residency, and then I'm going to get a job, and then I'm going to become department chair or whatever it is. I'm going to do this step and this step and this step and this step. And then you're like, okay, I'm here. Why aren't I happy? What's happening? Right? It's like you're so laser focused on that, and that's what you're good at. So that's what you do. But then you look at everything else and you're like, well, my marriage sucks, or my relationship with my kids sucks, or I don't have any friends, or I don't have any coping skills. I can't regulate my emotions, all of these things. So what does success look like? And it's not just professional success.
I mean, you mentioned suicidality before, but the other thing that we don't talk about nearly as much in the helping professions is the high rates of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the exact statistic. Jake, maybe we can put this in post, but it's like something like 61% of doctors have been divorced at some point. I think it's 61%. It was more than half. And I thought to myself, like, and we're very capable people, very smart people. We tend to attract partners who are capable and smart. But yet when it comes to like the nitty gritty messiness of making a relationship work, it's where a lot of us fall short. Like both of my parents are psychologists. And like, so a lot of their friends were psychologists. And growing up, it always amazed me how many of their friends were divorced and remarried. It's like, but you guys are like emotional experts. Like, shouldn't you guys have this shit figured out? I'm in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I fell for the manic pixie dream girl. That's my fault, but I'm 16. I don't know any better.
100%.
You mentioned, Colleen, that you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Are you partnered as well?
Yes, I'm married.
And if you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
how do you guys make it work?
I got very lucky because my wife grew up with a dad who was a OBGYN in solo practice.
Okay.
You guys can't see Matt. Matt just about
How
fell
does
out of
that
his
even
chair.
work?
Exactly. So he was never around. And so compared to that, she's like, your schedule's not that bad. Compared to that. That being said, so she had her parents, her dad was a physician, her mom was a nurse. So I think she was very familiar with that idea of when my patients need me, they need me. And that's not personal. I also think that I have tried as much as I possibly can, and I'm sure I have fallen short in many ways to make sure that when I'm available, I'm available. I've tailored my practice and what I do. Like, I'm lucky enough that I'm in a position now where I no longer take hospital call, which is life changing. And to be honest, I really feel like for me, when I'm with my kids, it sounds cliche, but that's like when I'm the happiest. And for me, I think it's because my kids don't see me as a doctor. They don't care how much money I make. They don't care, how many surgeries I did. They don't care about any of those things. They see me and they love me for who I am. And I think being with them is so emotionally rewarding because of that, because I get to just switch off the doctor part of me and go just be a human. But in terms of the marriage thing, which you asked, it's not always easy, but it takes a lot of planning and scheduling my time. And also my wife is 2E. She's gifted in ADHD. And so there's some struggles with that, but but at least we both sort of recognize and understand each other's neurodivergence, which is very helpful.
So you can just give her our contact information. She can be our
Exactly.
guest on the pod.
100%.
All right, everything Colleen said is wrong. Here's what actually
Exactly.
Oh God. Yeah, let's not do that, Jake.
No, we won't. I do have a question from that actually.
Yeah.
Knowing that your wife is 2E and that you're also neurodivergent, what's like your favorite celebration in the relationship?
How do you mean?
Like,
But what do you mean by celebration?
by celebration, I'm more of like things that you just appreciate about the fact that like you're both neurodivergent in this relationship and that it's completely unique for you.
Um, we just nerd out about so many things. There are some things that she really nerds out about and things that I really nerd out about, but when they overlap, like I love art and she was an art history major. So when we went to Italy, it was like she said to me, she's like, I'm gonna take you to all these churches and I'm gonna tell you this thing about this painting and this thing about this painting and all it like just like really deep granular stuff. And we just kind of nerd out about those things. But it creates challenges sometimes too, just because of we want what we want and we think the way we think and it doesn't always overlap. But I think it's helpful to sort of know that. But we also geek out about like our neurodivergence and then like the things that we do and we say when we look at other sort of neurotypical people. We're like, oh, haha, that's so funny. But yeah, I don't think I could have ever been with a neurotypical person. I don't think that ever would have worked for me.
just the idea of honoring somebody else's passion interests.
Hmm.
I just think that's a really cool thing.
Absolutely.
The thing that I always have respected about the neurodivergent community is that I always respect passion. Like your passion may not be a thing I vibe with, right? Like I just picked up a new client who's super interested in like medieval literature, and it's just not my thing. Like,
Ooh.
yes, yeah, I know. Like,
That's my field.
Jake is interested.
if I could give that kid to you, I would. But like, it's one of those things where like I read Canterbury Tales. I did not like it, but it's the sort of thing I get sucked into the passion with which he talks about it. right? My kids who 3D print, my kids who are super into like geocaching. It's like I speak passion, man. I can speak passion all day. Colleen, the way you talked about like the equipment you get to do surgery with, I like
Yeah.
was like, whoa, because that's the thing. It really is like if you care, I care that you care.
Hmm.
And that's something that binds, I think, all of us in this community together.
Absolutely.
Getting back to the that idea of like showing up as your best self in different aspects of your life.
Hmm.
I know for like my work with my therapist, a lot of that has been like, don't climb the corporate ladder, as it were, to be chief of medicine.
Hmm.
Climb the corporate ladder that you can have the time and money and prestige that you get to not take those hospital calls, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, it was like hiring an assistant, hiring other people from on my team, like Jake, like because then it's like, okay, cool, I can give away 5% of what I do to six people. That means I only have to do 70% of what I used to do.
Yeah.
And that 30% is now, so if I'm investing back into my wife, my kids, my relationships,
Hmm.
I completely identify with what you're saying. Cause like
Yeah.
that's the hard work to me is not a nicer car or a bigger house or a fancier vacation, though Italy is lovely.
Hmm.
It's like you have to buy the time.
Yeah. I think the hard part is that now you have the benefit and I have the benefit of we are private practitioners.
Mhm.
So you control the business. You say, I want to hire this person or I want to allocate these resources to these things. The problem now is more than 75% of physicians are employed, and they're employed by hospital systems and corporations and private equity. And so you have, again, another thing that was referenced in the pit, you have physicians saying, I need help. I'm doing all this paperwork. Like everything just becomes an extra job that physicians have to do, but where they don't get any extra time to do it and they don't get any extra pay to do it. I always use the analogy to like a lawyer. A lawyer calls you, they bill you for every 6 minutes. And physicians are expected to stay late and make phone calls and they don't get a cent for doing it. So you can recognize that you need these resources, but you don't necessarily have systems that are in place to give you the resources that you need. And so you run up against that.
I love our attorney, but you're
Mhm.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, like my dad did phone calls from leaving the office. Like we were like the first people we knew who got cell phones because my dad had to make calls from the car.
Hmm.
And like, I mean, it was the mid 90s, they were bricks,
Hmm.
right? But it was a thing like my dad had to do. And like he would see his last client at 6:30 and it was like a 15-minute drive home. But he would sit in the garage on the phone calling somebody back, fighting with an insurance company, talking to somebody off a proverbial or sometimes literal ledge.
Hmm.
And the research on burnout shows us that it's that stuff that amplifies the burnout, right? Like,
Hmm.
what we signed up for, right? Like, Jake, you got a
Hmm.
difficult kid who doesn't want to do reading or writing. Colleen, you've got a difficult patient, you've got a complex differential. I've got to fight a school district. Those are the things we signed up for.
Hmm.
It's the hours of invisible labor that gets us to those point or cleans up after those conversations.
Hmm.
Like, and this isn't a what was us podcast. Like what
No, of course not.
but I mean, I think it's important to name this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there suffering in silence, I think.
1000%. Then you add in like so and I have this problem too, working on it, but so then you're like, I'm done with my day. I want to get home to my kids, but I have all these charts to do. So now you have a decision to make. Am I gonna stay and which is going to take priority? And so for me, this is, it's procrastination, right? Where I put off the charts and I say, no, I'm going to go home. I'm going to spend time with my kids. I'll do the charts later. So, but that means you're doing the chart on the weekend or you're doing it later at night or those sorts of things. Like, I don't want to do this thing that is boring to me, that I don't like, that I'm not rewarded for. So I'm just not going to do it. And then it just, the quality of everything suffers. So, people will just make these decisions of like, nope, I'm not going to do this. and then it builds and builds and builds, and now you have an even bigger problem because now you feel bad or are having anxiety about that thing you need to do that you haven't done. And, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of.
Oh, it absolutely does. So, for all the smart, capable humans up there who struggle with anxiety, as you said you have,
Mhm.
what's your go-to anxiety move? Like, what's your anxiety management hack?
I mean, I can't say I have it mastered, but I kind of like so for me, what coaching really helped me to do is like, figuring out the thing what is it that you're afraid of? So for me, like, for example, with surgery, it's like the fear that I'm going to inadvertently hurt somebody. And well, why don't I want to hurt somebody? Because if I hurt somebody, then I could get sued or I could lose my career or then my family wouldn't be supported and all these horrible things would happen, right? And so for me, it's like kind of thinking about it's a little bit of maybe like a kind of a little bit of an internal family systems things, but it's kind of like there's the kid who's really scared that all these things are going to happen. But I'm not a kid, I'm an adult. And I'm like, no, even if that happened, I would be okay. People would help me. I would, all these things, and kind of being like, kind of like talking to the anxiety or that part of you and saying, I see you. I see what you're scared of. I acknowledge that this is a possibility, but, we're here. We've done this before. We're in control. We can respond to whatever arises. So it's like, you little 8-year-old or whatever you are, you can go sit in the corner and watch. I see you, but you don't get to drive the bus. That, and I also really like the phrase, like, I don't know, I think it's an Eckhart Tolle thing, but worrying has never prevented anything from occurring. You have no agency in what might happen. And so spending all that energy on it doesn't really help. But it's not easy. It's not always easy. And it's not a switch you can just flip. And it's something that I work on every day.
Big Eckhart Tolle fans over here. It's true. I mean, all worry does is sap joy, right? And and for my patients who are like, well, you mean I don't have time to be joyful? It's like, great, you're a very capable person. You need to be more capable. Yes, I do. Great. Worrying also makes us less capable, because we're burning all that energy on solving problems that haven't shown up yet. And then when they actually do show up, God forbid, then we are actually drained and exhausted and less capable. I mean, and this is we're really unpacking, right, that idea between like the body impacts the brain impacts the body, and like the ability to collaborate with professionals like you, even in an informal setting like this. I think people who listen to this podcast are going to be like, yeah, I guess my medical provider can be on my team here when it comes to my social and emotional health.
Absolutely.
Well, that feels like a good time to start segueing into our final questions.
Okay.
So, Jake, I've been talking a lot. Why don't you lead off this time?
Ooh, I get to lead this time? I'm so excited. Colleen, so my question for you is, what's your favorite word and why?
Oh my goodness. I was not expecting that.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I don't know
No,
which one.
no. My favorite word. I've always enjoyed the word rhythm. I like that it doesn't have any vowels. I think that's kind of fun. I wish you had asked me that earlier and I had more time to think about it. I probably would have come up with something better, I guess.
That's my favorite one to use for hangman.
The best word for hangman, by the way, is Zyzyx. Zyzyx. It is a weather pattern associated with hurricanes, I believe, when tornadoes appear on the edges of a hurricane system. But nobody ever gets it. And of course, now I've shown my cards. So.
Everyone's gonna know.
Yeah,
they should put that in Wordle.
Oh my God.
That messed with so many people.
I wonder if it's in the Wordle algorithm.
Of course, now I'm thinking freaking Wordle.
Can't escape.
Well, I had one of those the other day that it was like, the word was like plant,
Hmm.
And like I got PLAN, and I was like, oh, plank, no.
Hmm.
Oh, plane with an E, no. Oh, plans with an S, no. And I ended up getting it wrong. I was like, I hadn't lost a Wordle in like 2 years.
So frustrating.
Ruined your streak.
I'm telling you, man.
Oh no.
Very sad. All right. So, Colin, we're gonna go with rhythm.
Sure, we'll go with rhythm.
It's a great word. It's a great word. All right. Well, if you thought Jake's question was out of pocket, I'm sorry in advance.
Okay.
If you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why?
Who superhero on speed dial? It would have to be who can time travel.
I feel like there's a lot who can, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. It's more of a multiple thing. The Flash can time travel canonically.
I think Superman can.
Yeah.
I I want to say Cable.
Cable. Yep, Cable from the X-Men. So can Shadowcat. So yeah, you've got options.
think it would I think it would have to be time traveling. Okay. Yeah. I think I would go with time travel.
Time travel was ruined for me when one of my kids was like, well, time travel won't work. I'm like, well, why? Like, well, purely from a physics perspective, right? If you time traveled from this moment right now to the past, Earth would be millions of millions and millions of miles back in the nothingness of space.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't just be moving in the temporal stream. You'd have to find the physical location. And just like that blew my mind. Because, like, obviously, the Earth is not a station.
Yeah, but you know what? There's black holes and all that other stuff. You'd figure it out. I mean, theoretically, because of relativity, time travel does exist, right? You can have, so time can move slower for you than it does for somebody else. So all we gotta do is just figure out how to travel close to the speed of light, and we'll get there. I don't know.
Be floating around in space.
You are in there.
The only thing of physics that ever stuck with my brain is like the theory of relativity because I just think it's cool.
Super cool. Yeah. My GPS is useless. Oh my gosh. Colleen, you are a delight.
Oh, thanks.
You humanized the medical profession, you humanized coaching. And also, I think I didn't expect for us to talk about our families and how hard it is to be a doctor with a family, but just doc to doc on this, I really appreciate that. I think I think that's such a meaningful conversation that a lot of us don't have. So thank you for that as well.
Hmm.
All right. So as we wrap things up, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. What do you want our listeners to know about medicine, about neurodiversity? Tell your story.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing for me is I think for a lot of us, the achievement comes somewhat easily because, the way our brains work, things are easy. Learning things for us is easy. For most people, not everybody I understand, but getting an A on a test and all that stuff is easy. But humaning is not easy. And humaning is important. And we are so rewarded for our achievements that we focus so much energy on that we completely forget about being human and that we don't always know how to be human because being human is hard. There's no like reading a book about how to be a human, reading a book about how to feel your emotions or how to regulate your emotions or connect with other people or make friends or, do any of those things. And so I thought for a very long time that I just was like, broken was the word I would use a lot of the time. I just felt broken, like when it came to like social relationships, interpersonal relationships, all those kinds of things. And just realizing that A, you're not, and that B, the things you experienced as a child around this don't go away just because you're an adult. And so I feel like there's lots and lots of conversations around gifted kids, which is great and awesome, but there aren't a lot of resources, I feel like, for gifted adults. So for me, I feel like coaching and finding coaching is where we're such brainiacs and we like analyzing things so much. So I feel like going into your own thoughts is like giving yourself a superpower. and it's accessible and you don't have to feel so broken. So I think, for physicians in general, but also gifted people in general, kind of my goal is to hopefully make these things available and accessible to people and people who want to work on it, and work on these things. There's ways to do it. And for me, it's also fun because in a real gifted kid way, I do mostly like sinus and nasal surgery. And after you do it 1,000 times, you're like, I know this, I got this. Like, it's not as fun as it used to be. I enjoy it, but it doesn't, but my brain needed something else. Like, it's like, oh, I gotta do something. And so it was cool because I think this has kind of been my little bit of a pivot to like, I can't just be a doctor all my life. I don't think that will fill my cup. And so for me, coaching, I feel like has been really great in giving me a lot of meaning and fulfillment and helping people in a different way.
I mean, it's rare that you find a person who can do one of the two things you do well, and you get to do both. So that's a really cool thing. But yeah, I mean, you bring your brain with you wherever you go, right? And if that brain is that gifted kid brain that never got what it needed, now's the time to start taking steps to heal that, because it can heal. And that's both medical and mental in terms of that healing. So, well, all right. So, Jake, you want to ask, because I always forget, so you should ask it because I always forget.
Since you always forget, Colleen, where can people find you?
So people can find me. I am on Instagram it's the_gifted_grown-up. And if anyone wants to email me or chat about coaching or explore coaching more anymore, it's just my email address is cplaincoaching. So it's CPLEIN coaching@gmail. So, or feel free to, DM me. I also have a Instagram account that's just Dr. Dr. Colleen Plein. So COLLEEN PLEIN. You can find me. I'm there.
Gosh, Jake, will we put those in the show notes?
No, not at all. They would not be in the show notes for everyone to see.
That costs extra?
Oh, yeah, this is where we do the hard sell. Colleen, seriously, we learned a lot. You're such a great guest. Thank you for all the work you do. We're going to let you get back to your, partner and your kids. You're officially a friend of the pod now. So
thank you.
Hope to have you back again in the future, but keep up the amazing work you're doing. It's truly a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks. And you guys too.
So for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, go finish season 1 of The Pit. It's awesome. And I think there's another season of Grey's Anatomy. I'm not even sure. I've lost track of it.
Is it like 30?
That one jumped the shark a little while ago.
I think the shark jumping has jumped its own shark at this point. But you can always go back and rewatch Scrubs. But for all of us here, thank you for trusting us with your time. Thank you for listening, learning with us and from us. It's truly a pleasure to serve you. We hope to see you around. Take care. Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.